I can tell it all about the mountain boys who ran legal alcohol. His daddy made the whiskey, and the son he drove the load. And when his engine roared, they called the highway Thunder Road. Sometimes in Asheville, sometimes Memphis town, the revenuers chased him, but they couldn't run him down. Each time they thought they had him, his engine would explode, and he'd go by like they were standing still on Thunder Road. And there was thunder, thunder over Thunder Road. Thunder was his engine, and white lightning was his load. And there was moonshine, moonshine to quench the devil's thirst. The law they swore they'd get him, but the devil got him first. On the 1st of April, 1954, when a federal man sent word he better make his run no more, he said 200 agents are covering the state. Whichever road he tried to take, they'd get him sure as fate. Son, his daddy told him, you better make this run your last. Your tank is filled with 100 proof, you're all tuned up in gas. Now don't take any chances, and if you can't get through, I'd rather have you back again than all that Mountain Dew. There was thunder, thunder over Thunder Road. Thunder was his engine, and white lightning was his load. There was moonshine, moonshine to quench the devil's thirst. The law they swore they'd get him, but the devil got him first. Out of Harlem, he was revving up his mill. Shot the gap at Cumberland and just screamed by Maynardville. He had G-men on his taillights and a roadblock up ahead. That mountain boy took roads that even angels feared to tread. Blazing right through Knoxville, it was out on Kingston Pike. Right outside of Bearden, there they made the fatal strike. He left the road at 90 and there's nothing left to say. The devil got the moonshine and the mountain boy that day. And there was thunder, thunder over Thunder Road. Thunder was his engine and white lightning was his load. There was moonshine, moonshine to quench the devil's thirst. The law they never got him cause the devil got him first. The law they never got him cause the devil got him first.
They asked us to promote something throughout the state if we are selected as Miss Georgia. I'm also promoting it as Miss Thunder Road. It can be a cause, anything that we feel is very pertinent in today's society. My choice has been youth mentoring and parent mentoring. I'm currently involved with 3 children. I have mentoring partnerships with them in Athens, Georgia. And I'm also promoting parent mentoring, which many people aren't familiar with that. It's where the parents of special ed children who often need special things in school, special programs, special facilities for them. There's a mentor there who can walk them through the process and help them understand things. And unfortunately, a lot of those children are also low income, and we also work with them to help them get what they need and help them get the programs for their child to make sure that they succeed in schools. But I'm working with that as my platform. I will be competing at Miss Georgia in June, the last week of June, so everyone turn on their TV sets. It should be on television. Thank you. But like I said, I'm honored to be here, and I'll turn it back over to Captain Hurt.
Hey, it'll be good representing this area, won't you, huh? Always like to hear from the guy at the big house. The big house around here is Atlanta Motor Speedway. It provides us with a lot of the entertainment that I know that we all love, and the fellow who's done such a great job of bringing that facility up to its full capacity and made it one of the best racing facilities, I think, in the nation. Ed Clark, the president and general manager. Ed?
Good evening, and this is a great night for motorsports in Georgia. Obviously, it's hard to believe it was a year ago we kicked things off here. Thank you. But we're back again. I want to salute all the people who are being inducted tonight and their families of people who are being inducted tonight. You all don't know Well, I guess you do know. A lot of people don't know all you've done to build a foundation of motorsports, not only in this state, but nationally. If it weren't for people like you, I'd probably be somewhere with my horticulture degree running a nursery or something. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, and I hope everyone has a great evening. And one of the reasons we have these races, Herb talks about these great races at Atlanta Motor Speedway, is so we can get Herb down there to broadcast every Sunday morning. I can go by and get a bite of breakfast with him. But anyway, have a great evening. Come see us at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and we're so proud to have Thunder Road as part of motorsports in this state. And I know everybody here is proud of it, and all the great job that everyone is doing. We need to all help promote this facility. It's a great facility, and it speaks well for motorsports, not only in Georgia, but nationally. And every chance you get, tell your friends and neighbors about it. Get them up here to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. We appreciate your support of the program. There have been people who tried to get in and throw me out of the Speedway, but thank goodness he didn't listen to them. So, our next guest has been working on a special project that I think you're going to really get a charge out of. I think he's been working on this last 4 or 5 years, and he's got a special thing that he's going to show us tonight here for a special person that's here with us in the tent. Would you welcome Mr. Andy Davis, please?
They brought me to speak after Ed Clark and Captain Herb Emery. I feel like I'm way underdressed to be standing behind this podium tonight. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I was given a book that was written by Cale Yarborough, and I started reading about the history of NASCAR, and I had absolutely no idea that the history of NASCAR was so storied and so rich and so telling. I read stories about great promoters. I read stories about track builders and super speedway builders and moonshiners, and and that's true, because I actually saw a picture of Junior Johnson with his mama having a mug shot taken of them, and it became real to me. And as a sculptor and an artist, one of the ways that we tell stories is with our hands and with what we see and with what inspires us. And I've been a huge historian as far as a history buff. And I thought that maybe right now might be a time when some of these legends are getting on up in years, and some of us NASCAR drivers, our fans, are getting younger, that maybe we can honor them. So I came up with an idea, and as a matter of fact, I spoke to Ed about it even a few years ago, and I just thought that maybe the time was just right, just now, just today. And today, I would like to present. I just got back from the foundry at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I was finishing what I consider a very important piece of artwork. I've already done Fireball Roberts and Junior Johnson and Red Byron back there in the back. I'd like for y'all to go back there and take a look at this. But this night is not about me, of course. I really had no idea that I was on the agenda until about 20 minutes ago, which I want to thank Tom for that very much. So anyway, my next person that I spoke to was Rex White. It was a couple of months ago. I had spoken to Ed about that, and come to find out that Rex White lived right there in Forest Park where I grew up, and I went over to Rex's house with my wife, and we spent a good 3 or 4 hours with him and had a wonderful time. And one of the pictures that they showed me was this picture of Rex that his face was completely filthy with dirt, and he had taken these goggles off, and he had them down below his chin, and he had this fire in his make. Hopefully the picture's back there somewhere. And he had this crazy, insane look in his eyes, like he just got finished doing something completely wonderful, something that people don't have an opportunity to do, and I just got finished doing it. So I took that picture and I took that image and combined it with another one, and now I would like to present to Mr. White, and I hope that this sculpture is in his spirit. And I certainly enjoyed doing every minute of it, Rex, and it is really and truly just hot out of the foundry. And I want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
And I'm sure if you want to get one of these sculptures, Andy will be happy to go to the foundry again, won't you, Andy? probably go right over here to the Thunder Road gift shop and inquire about getting one, right? All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote address tonight from the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame president, man who's done great deeds for us to keep our organization strong and keep it thriving so we can continue to induct drivers into the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame. Would you please welcome Bob Moore.
This looks like a family reunion as I look out and I see all these smiling faces, and I must say you all clean up very nice. It's delighted to see you. What about the good food? If you enjoyed your meal, should we give these guys a big hand, huh? I also want to call attention to our God's chaplain. Wherever we go, Bill Brannon goes. And tonight, when he offered up to the good Lord, thanks for this country and thanks for our military, we should all do that with regularity. I believe that. If you would give Bill Brannon a big round of applause. I like it. Many years ago, when we started traveling and speaking to groups, I adopted a philosophy, and I hope that you subscribe to it tonight, that the mind can absorb what the fanny can endure. I won't be long, but I'll be truthful with you. A good friend of mine is a preacher like Bill Brannon. Told a story of he'd been in this particular church for a number of years, and he just got carried away with himself and what the message was about. And on the very front row, faithful every Sunday morning, every Wednesday night, Brother Jones would sit very attentively, and he was good for an amen. Well, this particular Sunday morning, the preacher was just full of himself, and he was going wide open. He didn't even bother to glance at his watch. It was 12 and it was 12:15. All of a sudden, Brother Jones, the faithful deacon, just got up and walked down the aisle of the church and out the front door. The preacher got concerned. Immediately, he closed his sermon and he went and he found Mrs. Jones, said, "What's wrong with Brother Jones?" Said, "Nothing, just walks in his sleep." We all have to be mindful of that. Tom French earlier mentioned about how we kid him with emails. Our secretary, Tommy Clownett, corresponds with Thunder Road on a regular basis. One of my favorite sayings is when you're up to your butt in alligators, you have to remember the initial objective was to drain the swamp. So we constantly remind Tom, being from South Georgia, we're familiar with alligators and swamps. I understand from the weather reports you folks have had your share of water up here, and our hearts and thoughts are with you. I enjoy coming to Dawson County, Dawsonville, Georgia. First came here some 5 years ago for your Moonshine Festival. I fell in love with the people, the race car atmosphere, bully burgers, and the lady that's on the corner of the Moonshine Festival diagonally from the courthouse that has the jams and jellies. I would encourage all of you to do what we do down in South Georgia. We take that big biscuit, cathead biscuit, go up here and get you a quart of her pear preserves and put some on a biscuit. It'll make you come back to Dawsonville just to see Thunder Road and the lady with the jams and jellies. It's a good place to come. I am concerned a bit from in my professional life in the insurance business for 30 years. I just want to tap you on the shoulder. We were here a couple of years ago to do your parade, and I was concerned about race cars in the middle of the street running, people everywhere. So I don't parade my race cars, and I hope that for those of you who do, you're extra careful. If there's a law enforcement official within the sound of my voice, the idiot that does the burnouts on Main Street with thousands of people around, he should be arrested. If you subscribe to that, you might want to touch these people on the shoulder. One of the things I enjoy most about this is the Starbreak Foundation. Our beauty queen here tonight alluded that she works with children, and God bless what a beautiful young woman she is, to have that talent to work with children. So your Starbreak Foundation here, we support that. Also, when we started Garhoff some 5.5, 6 years ago, we didn't know if it would work. But thanks to talented people, thanks to dedicated people, thanks to race car people, we've grown to where we have a membership of over 550. We're represented in 14 states. We're on very solid ground. One of the things that makes our ground so solid is the people. People like Eddie Samples. He is the publisher of our Pioneer Pages. It's issued on a quarterly basis. It's been nationally recognized. And Eddie, I want to say to you and your entire staff, what a great job you do. It represents all of us more than we probably deserve. Would you give Eddie Samples and his staff a big hand? A special thanks to Mike. A special thanks to Mike and Mickey Swims, where we go into Dixie Speedway once a year. And we did this 2 weeks ago, will be tomorrow night. And we ran our vintage cars. Had a great time. Mike and Mickey Swims are true friends to stock car racing in general in the state of Georgia, and they are to be commended. Would you give those two men a big hand, please? We had the pleasure of working with Ed Clark's delightful staff at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Back in the spring race, we took some 30 cars in and did a parade lap. Could not have been more professionally received by the staff and also the fans. We look forward to that relationship growing. I mentioned Eddie Samples, our guy that does the Pioneer Pages. Let me give you some other names. And I won't tell you the position they're in other than the fact that they are tremendous workers. And it's almost like a who's who in the state of Georgia as far as automobile racing. People like Jimmy Mostella, Aubrey Holly, Tommy Kleiner, Jimmy and Brenda Summerhour, two delightful people, husband and wife. Charlie Mincy, Hubert Platt, Eddie McDonald, Woody Moore, Al Smith, Don Tomlin, Stuart Seymour, Jack Jackson, Bill and Joe Gazaway, Mike Bell and Bruce Brantley, plus a supporting cast of these leaders. I mentioned we're over 550 strong. We would like to invite you. This is the opportunity. Come be part of us. I think you'll enjoy it. Two big words that we're big on in Garhoff is accountability and responsibility. The funnel effect when this committee was assigned to do the induction deal. Thunder Road contacted us and we supplied the personnel, the people who have been in racing for years, who've been as a mechanic or car owner, driver, all aspects. And I feel so comfortable with these men and putting this great responsibility in their hands. They did a marvelous job. We hope next year and in the ensuing years as the nominees and nominations continue to grow, we'd like for this to become absolutely colossal, and we're close now. Let me address for just a minute about family and fraternity. I want you to all, since you are racing people, to think of numbers. And everyone here that has ever participated in the great sport of automobile racing, wouldn't it be nice if we had a collective number that we have all played to one time or another, that is, that has watched us do what we did? If you let your mind go, and we've got people here raced for years, large crowds, small crowds, medium crowds, but the number would be absolutely staggering in the millions of people. Have you ever wondered, all those people that you played to in the stands, how many of those people in their minds said, I wished I could do that. I believe I could do that. I would like to do that. And if you take that number, that huge number, and you reduce it to those in whatever capacity that you participated in our great sport, any function, that number is now reduced even smaller. As we get older, that number will become even smaller. Look around you. Look around you tonight. You'll see successful businessmen. You'll see successful human beings. And the one thing that ties us all together is our great sport of automobile racing. Look around you again. Were it not for our great sport of automobile racing, how many of these people would you have ever had the opportunity to know and to love and to appreciate? In closing, two things that I want you to take away from here tonight, and I want you to dwell on it. Try not to be better than your neighbor. Try to be better than yourself. And probably the most important thing is, tell them you love them while you got a chance. Enjoy yourself, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for all the hard work you do with the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame. We'll begin the process that we all came here to see tonight. At this point in time, our first inductee for the 2003 ceremony, the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame, sort of had the background that a lot of the inductees have had that we've already placed in the Hall of Fame, messed around with a little moonshine at his time. 1946 National Stock Car Points Champion. He was NASCAR's first technical chairman. He was the 1948 South Carolina Points Champion, a 1949 National Modified Stock Car Points Champion, and in 1954 and 1955, the Birmingham Racing Club Points Champion. He was chosen by Motorsports journalist in 1947 as the finest driver in the United States. And Fireball Roberts and Buck Baker both were quoted as saying they copied his style of driving. He died in 1991. Would you please welcome his wife, Virginia, Ed Samples, our first inductee into the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame tonight. Our next inductee was nominated, one of the persons who nominated our next inductee is the president of NASCAR, Jim France, who took time out of his schedule to write us a letter, say he believed that this driver needed to be in the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame. He started racing in 1946 before NASCAR was even formed. He was a 1951 National Stock Car Champion in the Modifieds. He was the first driver to win at the old Daytona Road and Beach Course and at Daytona International Speedway. He was voted the most popular NASCAR driver in 1959. Won the first race that was held at Bristol International Speedway. And they told him when he won that race that he'd have a free room at the Holiday Inn from then on And he was back there in 2000, 2001 trying to get that room, too. I think they had bulldozed the hotel. The winning car owner of the 1960 Southern 500, he won 21 what we call now Winston Cup races in his career, voted one of the top 10 drivers of the 20th century by Sports Illustrated. He moved to Georgia when he was 2 years old. He began his racing career while he was here in Georgia, and then he moved closer to where he could work on his cars with all the fellas in the Carolinas up around Spartanburg, and was a great businessman in the transmission business. He was the first driver to use two important things. First driver to use a two-way radio in his car, and he was the first driver to treat the driver's uniform with boric acid, which they used to try to fireproof the suits. So two big safety innovations. He was a great man. I miss him dearly. I wish he was still here with us. Accepting as Jackie Smith for Jack Smith.
I didn't know that Bob Moore was going to start an argument at our table. My sister and I were in an argument just before they announced Dad, and we were talking about everybody here and all the people, and it looked like family, a family reunion. Well, my dad was from a large family of 9 brothers and sisters, and I commented, doesn't this look like our Smith family reunion? And my sister says, no, she didn't think so. Nobody was dressed in overalls, and there hadn't been a fight yet. Some of you being honored here tonight might remember me as the little kid who hung around the tracks while you were unknowingly making legends of yourselves. That was back in the days when racing was Spam, Vienna sausage, soda crackers, and tow bars. Not like today with president's boxes, tenderloin, shrimp, closed-circuit TVs, and huge car haulers. That was also when you and my dad worked hard for the love of racing instead of for the money. There's one reason more than any other that my dad would be so thrilled to be here tonight to accept this award. That reason is that he loved his hometown and his roots. As much as he loved racing, I believe he loved even more being with those men he started with and talking about Lakewood, the Peach Bowl, and those first years of racing. He really understood that it took a whole team to build a successful program. He was proud to be called the promoters and the mechanics his friends. That was before race drivers became superstars, when you all were in the business together, doing whatever job you did the best to serve the sport of racing. Dad would really be in his element tonight, home again, being rewarded together with his friends and peers for his racing career. Many of Dad's relatives are here tonight, some of his siblings, my sister Gloria, his lovely wife Betty, and their children Kim and Lance. It means as much to us as it would have to Dad to be honored and affirmed in his own backyard. On Dad's behalf, we, his family, would like to express our heartfelt thanks to you for electing him to the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame at Thunder Road, USA.
Our next inductee, I've had the pleasure of meeting several times. I had him, we do a radio show about NASCAR on Saturdays at WSB, and I had him come down to the station one day. He came rolling up in his car. I went out to the parking lot to greet him. He got out of his car. The car started rolling back down the driveway. He called it, though. He called it. And he gave me this tie, too. He may have some to give out tonight. He started his daredevil career, I want to call it, actually was delivering telegraphs on a motorcycle, and I guess around the Atlanta area, he said, well, you know, this is kind of life-threatening. He decided to start jumping things with that motorcycle. So he would jump up to 12 cars in the motorcycle for Lucky Teeter's Hell Drivers, they called it. He was the first to perfect the automobile two-wheel balance with the Jack Cockman Hell Drivers. He was in that first group forming NASCAR in 1947. He had 3 Grand National wins, driving a Studebaker. 1953 AAA National Points Champion, 1955 AAA National Points Champion. He was the pole winner of the 1951 Darlington race. 82 cars started in that first race at Darlington. There was like 180 that showed up there to qualify. It took about 9 days. This guy sat on the pole, but he finished dead last in the race. He only went about 12 laps, I think, before his motor gave up. Ladies and gentlemen, our next inductee is Frank Rebel Monday.
It's really an honor, and I certainly appreciate you thinking of me at this time of my life. I'm 84 years old now, and they say maybe another 10 years, and I just hope that it's longer than that. I don't know if you know the definition of a race driver, but there are 3 things. You have to be too lazy to work, too much of a coward to steal, and braver than Dick Tracy. And it's a pleasure to be here and see all of the racing fans, the backbone of racing. Thank you.
Our next inductee comes from the business end of the racing industry. Probably every one of us here has been to Atlanta Motor Speedway, what they call Atlanta Motor Speedway, to watch a race. If it wasn't for this particular individual, there might not be an Atlanta Motor Speedway left today. I've read the stories about this gentleman being out the night before the first race was ever held at Atlanta Motor Speedway and laying 1.5 miles of guardrail. He was the first promoter to pay appearance money. Innovated the first double guardrail safety system. He was they called him the savior of Atlanta Motor Speedway or Atlanta International Raceway because of his promoting abilities. He was the first racetrack promoter in Georgia to get race drivers the attention of something else besides the racetrack. He was able to get them under the gold dome at the state capitol to meet with the governor. He was able to take race drivers to the White House when Jimmy Carter was governor as well. He really made Atlanta Motor Speedway what it is today in the Hampton area. A great promoter, a great friend of the drivers, a great friend of Georgia because of all the now economic gain that our state has realized from Atlanta Motor Speedway and that property down on the south side of Atlanta. Would you please welcome Kim Thompson, the granddaughter of our next inductee, Al Knight.
he would be thrilled to be here with people that he loved, supporting a sport that he loved his entire life. He devoted himself to drivers, to the sport, to make it better than what it is today. And I know he would love to have been here, and I am honored. My family is honored as well to accept this on his behalf. Thank you.
Our next inductee, I'm sure many of you have heard. I've heard him for years. Sometimes you wish you had a switch so you can turn him off. He knows who I'm talking about now, I'm sure. A lot of you do. He was the first, matter of fact, I think he might have even got me started announcing races when I first moved to Georgia. I think he took a vacation and Mickey Swims hired me to fill in while this fellow went on vacations. And I couldn't understand how that fella could keep up a schedule like that, because Mickey had you announcing races in Douglasville on Friday and Woodstock on Saturday and Rome on Sunday. And I said, how's Jimmy do that? Man, I don't want that job the next year. I hope he gets back soon. He's the voice of racing here in Georgia. We can't begin to tell you how many races that he has announced. NASCAR and Southeastern stock car announcer since 1949. He was the founder of the Havatampa Racing Series, which now is called the Extreme Series, that Mickey and Mike helped get started as well. 1954 Southern Races Enterprises and Midwest Auto Racing Voice of the Speedway Award. He was a Hall of Fame inductee in the Late Model Dirt Racing Association in 2000, and he's noted as having, quote, announced more events than any other person in racing history. And if Georgia Pilot could only figure out how to hook something up to that mount to produce electricity, we'd have free power the rest of our life. Our next inductee, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Marcella.
They even put a mic for me here. You know something? On everybody that has come up here, I could say something about something good. But what pleases me more than anything is all you wonderful racing people. We are a family. And I'm so honored to be here tonight. I don't mind telling you that Jack Smith, I was doing horse shows. I'd even bought an organ, teaching. I wasn't teaching, but she was learning to play the organ. And I said to my wife, on the weekends, what I'll do to pick up a little extra money, I'll MC horse shows. You can play the organ. Then all of a sudden, Jack Smith took me down to Thomaston, Georgia, to a race. Well, my golly, between the racing and the fighting, I sort of enjoy it. And then they invited me to start doing some shows. In fact, Jack Smith at one time was a promoted boy at Speedway. But I'm so honored to be here tonight, to be inducted right here at home. And I want to thank everybody that had anything to do with it. Because somebody had to nominate me. But when they went through the, what do you call that thing, Bob? They went through the, was it a siphon or something? What was it?
Balance.
Huh?
Balance.
Was that what it was? You see, I'm not too educated, but I guarantee you, thank God, I'm nominated into the Hall of Fame right here at home. And a while ago, they were talking about Ed Clark down at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I was at Atlanta Motor Speedway for 16 years when it was Atlanta International Raceway. I stayed at the Peach Bowl 17 years. Anybody ever go to the Peach Bowl? Hold up your hand. Look at this. Let me tell you, I remember when the Peach Bowl, when Bill France Enterprise was promoting the Peach Bowl, promoting Lakewood, driving cars for Raymond Parks and others. Am I right, Raymond? But anyhow, somewhere along the way, maybe I've helped some young men get started into the announcing end of it. It's a great thing, and if we had just enough time for the next 2 or 3 or 4 days, I could tell you a little bit about racing. Because I have seen it from the midgets to the Indy cars and on up. But I will tell you this. How many of you ever come up to Looper Speedway? That's when the drivers out of Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee would come to the half-a-mile track, the Gainesville Looper Speedway. I know that Raymond was there with some of his drivers, but anyhow, back in those days, they didn't have ladies' restroom. They didn't have men's restroom, and it was the first race of the season. So I'm up here doing my announcing, and all of a sudden I see 2 ladies come out of the restroom. We call them outhouses in those days. But everything they wasn't trying to pull up, they're trying to pull down. I guarantee you, and being crazy like I am, all I could think of was to tell somebody hem them up, they're headed to the races. But we had a good time, and back in those days, we had good record service, but you didn't have but one. He couldn't be in all the turns at the same time. So the announcer more or less had to make a show out of it. That's what started me to clowning. I still love to clown. Even when I was at Atlanta Motor Speedway, I clowned it up a little bit with that girl from Dawson. I'm trying to think of her name. I know who it is. Yeah. But see, that's been the great part of it. Wasn't making any money, but look at the fun I was having. Look at the fun I was having. This has been racing, but I'm saying to everybody in this group here tonight, the super speedways of the country, with all the television and all this kind of stuff, it can't help but get bigger and better. But it all started on dirt. And a promoter we got here that you alluded to there was Mickey and Mike Swim. Let me tell you, I've been with Mickey Swims over 35 years, right? And they gonna do something for me. Yeah, they gonna do something for me. They gonna have a Jimmy Mostello 100 lap event, April 30th. Correct me if I'm wrong. We are. Every time I get on that Sprite, I get messed up. August the 30th. August the 30th. I'd like y'all to remember that date. It's Labor Day weekend. And I know that ain't in April, I think. But anyhow, when I got inducted into the National Dirt Track Racing Hall of Fame, Late Model Racing Hall of Fame up in Kentucky, a gentleman wrote a story, Tony Hammond, a labor of love. I got to thinking about that, a labor of love. It just wasn't for me. That was for the race drivers, the pit crews. And I think Rex or anybody that's in these stands, your pit crew in those days was your friends. They'd even help share the expense with you. Am I right, Rex? So this is the thing. Nobody was making any money, but that was the beginning of racing. And look where it's come to today. And in my opinion, it's going to come much further. Now tonight, I'd like to mention hundreds, if not thousands, of race drivers. We're sitting in an era right here that I'd say with a 100-mile radius, they must be 150 to 500 good race drivers. Racing has been cleaned up. It's becoming more competitive. Used to in a show, if I was doing a show and we had 25 cars per field, you'd split them up into heat races. I was at Dixie Speedway the other night. What do you have, 150, 175 cars? Hey, if you haven't been there, I invite you to come there, because really, the Swims family, Mickey, how long you been in? Mickey, 40 years? 50? Not 60, 40. But anyhow, the thing is this, he was in drag racing, got into oval racing, and as Herb alluded there, I was working on Friday night, on Saturday night, and Sunday night. But you know who enjoyed it the most? I did. I had the best seat in the house. I was up in the announcer's booth. They may have just a fan on there, but they brought my food up to me. Now I've got the best guy that takes care of me when I go to Dixie. He's a young man I put in racing over 30 years ago, Johnny Clark. Stand up, Johnny. But anyhow, I could go on, and I think I will if you allow me 5 more minutes. Is that all right? Because it's hard for me to tell the world how much I love this sport. But right here, when I told you about the labor of love, I got to thinking about the time that drivers was away from their families. The announcer was away. Sometimes you'd have to drive round trip from 1 hour to 5 hours. If we was up in Carolinas, you're looking at 5 or 6 hours. Tennessee, maybe 3 hours round trip. Back in those days, everybody was towing with what they call the yellow bar, the tow bar. Correct me if I'm wrong, Raymond. I'm a tow bar, that's what it was. Some people had a truck, but didn't everybody have a truck? If you happen to have an accident at the racetrack, and when I say an accident, I'm not talking about hitting the wall, I'm talking about it could have been an engine, a transmission, whatever it was. So many things can happen when you're out there in competition. Even your best friend will put a bumper to you, somebody told me. But Rex, did you ever put a bumper to anybody? You can go to hell with a line just like you had for stealing. But anyhow, what I'm trying to say is it's been a tough road for everybody involved in racing. One guy told me the other night, I was down to Tifton, Georgia, the other day rather, I was down to Tifton, Georgia, to the Aubrey Holly get-together once a year down there, a big barbecue. And this fellow says, Marcel, I'll never will forget the biggest payday I had years ago. I said, well, you must have hit a big one. He said, I did. I got paid $40. I said, $40? He said, yeah, I was working for $5 a day. Now, most people in this room don't remember them to these times, but anybody you see that's got gray hair, they remember those days. Am I right? Times was hard in those days. Peach Bowl admission was $1.20. That was parking and tax included. Lakewood Speedway in Atlanta charged $2 to enter Lakewood Speedway, but if you want to sit in the cement grandstand, cost you another $1.50. $3.50. Times have changed in my time. And as a lady here wants to write a story, and she write one on Rex White, and she wants to write a story on me, and I may just let her do it because I want to tell the world before I leave here how much I've enjoyed this sport, how far it has come in my lifetime. But needless to say, times are going to continue to change. We, the people that's in right here tonight, will play a part in these changing times. And I'd like to tell you Got just a couple more minutes left, I think. Right?
Your time was over 5 minutes ago.
Oh, what? Well, it's hard to tell your heart to anybody in 5 or 10 minutes. But what racing has done to me, and this is my 55th year in it, really. It has allowed me to become a personality all of my own. I'll be the same thing tomorrow and today. When I go to a racetrack, I'm the same thing. It has allowed me to be an associate, a friend, a companion. I met so many people, hundreds of thousands. Some were rich, some were poor, some was old folks, some was little bitty bunnies. I've met them all in between and what have you. That's what I have tried to do in my lifetime, is make everybody a part of the show. Thank you.
Lord have mercy, if they're going to write a book about Jimmy, we better start planting the trees now, because we're going to need some more paper. Our next inductee was another one of those fellows that was among that group that first get together and form NASCAR. He won his first race as a car owner with Fonnie Flock as driver in 1945. He was a chief mechanic for the 1946 championship, the 1949 championship, the 1951 championship, engine builder for the 1952 Daytona Beach win. He built more winning motors than any other mechanic between 1945 and 1973. My buddy and reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Rick Minter, calls him the most brilliant and underrated mechanic in motorsports history. He's got the nickname of Bones. He's one of the few people in automobile racing that he never smoked, never drank in his life. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome our next inductee, one of the great crew chiefs, Harvey Bones Jones. Come on this way, Harvey. Come on up here.
There you are. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Our next inductee also had a little bit to do with the motors, under the hood action, setup of a race car. In fact, his nickname was King of the Flathead Engines. 1946, you know, the driver change this week with the DEI folks and the Richard Childress folks. Well, this guy, he had a driver change in 1946, but this fella, the driver he replaced was Bill France. Went to work for this man right here, who was inducted last year, Raymond Parks. Yeah, let's give Ray. He gained national notoriety and police attention as well, apparently, at Lakewood Freeway as the masked getaway driver at a Labor Day race here in 1947. Finished third in points in 1949, the strictly stock division, and he entered only 6 events that year and won 2 of them. Won the first pole in NASCAR's Winston Cup history in a strictly stock car race in Charlotte in 1949. Won the 1952 race at Asheville-Weaverville Speedway, and he won it with a broken back and with a neck brace as he drove with injuries he had received the week before. As a member of the National Motorsports Hall of Fame, fellow inductee Jack Smith said of him, one of the best stock and modified drivers of all time, and a daredevil. He had over 200 modified wins. Our next inductee, Bob Flock, and accepting his daughter, Judy Robinson.
First of all, I just want to tell, where's Jackie Smith? We brought our overalls too. We changed down at the McDonald's. I've been talking to a lot of my dad's old friends tonight, and I'm sure they remember what a wonderful, great driver he was, but I want to let you know what a great man he was. He was probably one of the sweetest, kindest, gentlest men you'd ever want to know. He was a man of few words. But don't get me wrong, once he got on the track, he was there to win. And I wanted to tell you a cute little story that I told Nancy Rogers a while back about my mom and dad going to a race. I'm not sure where it was, but back then I think a lot of the drivers, maybe most of them, had to tow their own cars. And they were going down this little 2-lane road somewhere to the racetrack and towing his car, and my mom looked over at my dad and she goes, "Oh, Bob, there goes a car looks just like yours." My dad goes, "That is my car." So I remember him always saying that he thought his cars knew their own way to the track. And I know that if he was here tonight, he would be so proud and so humble to accept this award. So on behalf of my father and the Flock family, I'd like to say thank you very much.
Okay, our final inductee tonight, I'm sorry to say that I've had to do some investigative reporting on before I came to the gathering. Unfortunately, this next inductee failed his Georgia driver's license test in 1961. And this is after he had won a championship. Obviously, they just let anybody drive up north where he moved from to Georgia. I don't know if I think they might have felt sorry for him, gave him the driver's license later on. He was the pole sitter in the 1964 Dixie 400 at Atlanta Motors Speedway. And when the newspaper photographers went looking to take a picture for the pole sitter to put in the paper, sell some tickets to the race the next day, they found him asleep in his car at the floorboard. That was the picture that showed up in the paper the next day of the pole sitter sleeping in his car. He picked up a magazine not too long ago, said he was dead. He figured out he wasn't in a few minutes. His first win was at West Langham Speedway in Maryland in 1953. He was a runner-up in the 1958 NASCAR Short Track Division Points champion. He received the famous number 4 from a friend, the late racing champion Billy Myers. He was, as I said, the 1960 Winston Cup National Points champion and the most popular driver, won more Winston Cup races than any other driver in 1960, 28 Winston Cup career wins, 36 poles, 110 top 5 finishes, and he only raced 233 races in his career. That's something else. Led over 4,000 laps. What I remember about him as a kid when my dad took me to track was that he had the most beautiful car of any of them that were on the track back then. They would have these beauty contests where they'd line the cars up and the fans would vote, and if Rex was there, the rest of them could go home. Ladies and gentlemen, our next inductee, Mr. Rex White.
They said that Herb was late getting here and tied up in traffic, and I was going to fill in for him. I'm sure anybody he got here, we don't make him look bad. Most people get up and thank everybody, and I'm going to get up here and blame everybody. The only reason I'm up here today is because of 3 people, and I'm going to talk about the best looking one first. She asked me to be on a radio show, and Rick Minner knew where I was at. He found me. He said, I want you to be on the Dawsonville radio show down at the racetrack. And I said, okay, I'll do it for you, Rick. And so I went down and was on the radio show. Anyway, Dallas is a lot taller than I am. And every time I go on her show, I get a big hug. She's got the neatest place for me to lay my head and get a hug. And the other one is Rick Minner. And I got to give him a lot of blame for me being up here. And then the other one is Reverend Bill Brand, sitting right back there. If it wasn't him, I'd probably be here. And I'd like to thank all the people that voted for me. Pleasure to be in the Thunder Road Hall of Fame and to be inducted with a lot of famous people and a lot of talented race car drivers and mechanics. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are your inductees to the 2003 Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you coming out to Thunder Road USA and keep supporting.
Still dirty too. Never even cleaned it off. They never even cleaned it off.